you need some kicker help, here's some kickers you could go grab on waivers or after waivers heading into Week 11. The first guy's Graham Gano with the New York Giants. Graham Gano, what a game he had, and he clinched it to beat the Eagles, and the Giants rewarded him with a 3-year, $14 million extension. So the Giants finally finding their kicker, and maybe fantasy owners could find him too. But just the only thing this week, Gano going on bye in Week 11, but his last few fantasy days, double-digit points in Week 9 versus the Redskins. He hit a 35-yarder and then two 40 to 49-yarders and two PATs. So Graham Gano, he's putting up solid points. The Giants like him, and he's helped them win the last two games. And then this week, he had a 35-yarder, three PATs, and a 42-yarder. So Graham Gano, he's getting opportunities. The Giants, they score about high 20s to mid-20s. So they're scoring a decent amount. And Gano, he's putting up the decent points. The next guy's Tyler Bass. He was on this list last week, and if you listened and got him, he might have single-handedly helped you win your fantasy game. He had 18 fantasy points. He had a 58-yarder, a 52-yarder, and a 54-yarder with three PATs versus the Arizona Cardinals. Bass, he's out there in a bunch of leagues as well. He's available in 87% of leagues, but this guy's putting up huge numbers the last month now. Is Bass with 22, 5, 14, and then 18 yesterday. The only thing he goes on by also in Week 11, but he's definitely a kicker you could go stash. It's Tyler Bass, because this guy, he's got a big boot. He's putting up huge points, and right now he's up there in the top 2 or 3 in fantasy points for kickers. The next guy is Rodrigo Blankenship of the Indianapolis Colts. He's a guy I had on the drop list last week, but if you didn't listen to me, good thing you didn't. Rodrigo, he had a good game on Thursday Night Football versus the Tennessee Titans with 10 fantasy points. Now they got the Green Bay Packers coming up. Rodrigo, he plays indoors, which is a plus for him. He was dropped in 8% of leagues, so some people did take the advice, I guess. His bye week's over, and it's a good thing. The Colts are scoring at a decent amount of pace. You know, this week in Week 11 versus Green Bay, they're going to try to have to score a lot to win that game, and Rodrigo's available in 55% of leagues. So if he's out there, go get him again this week. The next guy is Jason Myers of the Seattle Seahawks. Myers, he's starting to get more opportunities and chances. Going into the game, he only had 7 field goals made on the season out of 7. Not his fault, but in this game, he had a 52-yarder, a 35, and a 34, and a PAT, so he had 12 points. He's in the top offense. Now it's a quick turnaround for Thursday Night Football where Arizona comes to town versus Seattle. So Myers, he's got double-digit fantasy points in 3 out of his last 4 fantasy games. His bye week is over, so go out there and get Myers. He's available in 62% of fantasy leagues, and he's a decent pickup if you need a kicker in a pinch this week. Hopkins of the Washington football team. Washington, we don't see him finish off many drives. And now Hopkins, he was banged up going into Week 10 with the groin, but he went out there and played this week, hitting 3 PATs, a 36-yarder, and a 44-yarder. He's out there in 100% of leagues universal. And now Washington, they got Cincinnati coming up and Dallas, 2 games where Hopkins should get more opportunities. And now he's got 10 fantasy points in his last 2 games in a row. So Hopkins, he's putting up points. He's been a long-time kicker for Washington, and he's a guy, like I said, he's out there in every fantasy league. So that's 5 kickers. I'm looking to get heading into Week 11.